Learning to snowmobile can be super, super frustrating, and we see a lot of people making a lot of mistakes. In this video, we're going to go over the 5 most common mistakes we see beginners make, and we're going to tell you how to fix them.
Look, I don't want to talk. How you try and press the kid and read you a
All right, guys, welcome back to yet another episode of Let's Assess Podcast. Today, it's me and AJ back with another informative video for you guys. So today, like I said, we are talking about common mistakes that we see people make. And before we get into those, I just want to say this. If you're liking what you see, please subscribe. It means a lot. It helps us grow the channel. And before I get into it also, I want to say that a lot of you are like, well, why should we listen to you two? I kind of have a different stance on learning to snowmobile. I didn't have anyone that was experienced or even remotely experienced teaching me how to do this. I had to learn everything on my own and made a ton of mistakes. So hopefully I can provide value. I feel like I've come a long ways since I started snowmobiling. And AJ is a very good rider, and his business is actually
to teach how
to teach people how to
ride. Yeah, essentially from beginner to not. So I couldn't agree more. And yeah, I was kind of more the silver spoon, I guess, up my ass for being a snowmobiler. I learned everything from like my parents, and then had lots of mentors through my snowmobiling career. So I've, definitely had a much different like upbringing into it. For sure.
My snowmobile mentors had never ridden a snowmobile. Anyway, so we're going to get into this. It can be super, super frustrating, and we know that. So that's why we want to help you guys out in this video. We have 5, like the title says, and we're going to kind of start with the base and then work down. And these aren't little things. These are more broad terms that we really think are going to help you guys no matter where you're at in your journey as a beginner. So,
and all these 5 things are focused and like goal orientated for you guys to limit your frustrations when on the mountain and throughout your entire like riding career, I guess.
So I'll jump into the first one. Number 1 is setting expectations. This is probably riding with people. This is their number 1 problem. Okay. They're getting into the sport of snowmobiling, and they watch Caleb Kosterky and Chris Barant and even our videos.
Yeah, for sure.
And we've been riding a lot longer. We've gone through the, obviously the pros have too. And you guys think that you're going to come out and do the stuff you see on Instagram on the snow your first day. And what I see a lot of people doing, I don't know about you, they're like, I'm going to re-entry. Yep. It's their first or second day on the snow. They're like, I just want to re-entry. And they can't even get to the hill where they're going to try to re-entry. And that leads to frustration, and then that leads to either getting out of the sport or not enjoying the sport. And we have to remember, we are doing this 100% for fun. That is why we're out on the hill.
That is the focus.
So
we're out there for fun. And that's just like anything in life. Yeah, you got to learn to crawl before you can walk,
Yep.
And it's the same with snowmobiles. Don't have those expectations that you're going to go pop a re-entry, that fast. Like, you got to get the basics down and go through those fundamentals in order to make it to that point. But in order to get even through those fundamentals, you got to really bring it back and like focus on like even like getting the feet on the right side, reading, what you're going to do, like having a plan A and a plan B, like to get to that point. Like there's so much stuff to get there. So just limiting that expectation that like you're not going to go out there and be Chris Brandt or Caleb Kosterky within, even a season,
or 5 seasons.
Yeah. I mean, we're not that. And it's been many, many, many years doing this. Yeah. So
those guys have dedicated their life to it. So, and the thing that I tell people with snowmobiling, the misconception, in my opinion, is someone has gone 4-wheeling, okay? Or they've rode, a 110 dirt
jet
bike.
Ski in Miami once.
Yeah. And they think like, well, I mean, I can ride a 4-wheeler. It's pretty much the same thing. It just goes on snow.
Yeah.
And on the trail, you could argue it's very similar. But most of you are trying to backcountry ride. It is not even remotely close. It is way, way harder.
Correct. And I mean, anybody could probably like maybe get down the trail, right? Like they definitely could. But even a snowmobile, there's such a learning curve with it that is so different than a 4-wheeler, jet ski, everything like that. And I think one of the big things that people forget about is like you're going into the backcountry in the wintertime. You can die out there. Like it's cold and there's a lot of stuff after you. So like a lot of people misread that, like, they got to focus on, you know, if you get off the trail too far and you can't get back to it, like, it's a long walk, and walking through that snow is not an easy task for sure.
Yeah.
So,
and we can, if you guys are interested, we'll go deep into these things of like actually technical things you should be doing. We have a video on the channel that's it's called How to Turn a Snowmobile in Deep Snow. So check that out if you're trying to learn to side hill and turn off the trail.
Yep.
So the second one is terrain. Okay. All these videos make it look like riding hills and trees and everything like that in the deep snow is easy, and it takes a long time. You first have to learn how to turn, and even in that can take a season to be comfortable
on flat ground.
Yeah.
Yes.
Turning left and right. And so what I mean by terrain is, let's start in skiing and snowboarding terms. Let's start at the bunny hill and then work your way up to the greens and then the blues and then the blacks and everything like that. Don't go out and think that you're going to be booting big jumps, you know, in skiing and snowboarding terms like Shaun White, when you're just not at that level. You can't even ride the thing and you're expecting to make this, you know, 500-pound machine flip over your head and stuff. It's just not going to work.
Yep.
But back to the terrain thing. Flat, open
terrain.
Open terrain.
Yes.
Which sometimes can be hard in the mountains. So what I recommend you do, go to a trailhead. You can look up your local snowmobile club, find a trailhead. 9 times out of 10, they're going to groom them. So grooming means basically it's going to be packed down.
Like a ski resort.
Yeah, exactly. The same thing as a ski resort.
Yep.
So go up the trail and get comfortable on the snowmobile. Have somebody with you always, and then get off in a flat, open meadow, and they exist even in the mountains, and then start trying to learn things. And depending on where you are in your journey, you might just want to ride the trail for a while.
Yeah, correct. I mean, get comfortable on the sled, and then you can move to the deeper snow. And then you want to find a meadow too. And this is going to be the challenge of the terrain part too, is finding snow that's not a bunch of tracks through it or a bunch of old snowmobile tracks through it. Because learning to ride powder with that's what like bumps you and messes you up. So having good fresh snow, and you know, you can learn how to maneuver on flat ground there. And then as you evolve, like, okay, I'm getting it figured out how to make a turn. I can go left and right. Now you can start adding in open hillsides with no trees. Learn how to side hill, learn to keep it on edge. But even before you get to that point, there's a step that you can hit in between of like, can you ride on one ski straight through a meadow?
Yeah.
You know, and that's a good thing to do.
One of my recommendations is trying things on the side of the trail.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think that is, worst case, you can flip the sled. Well, I guess that's second to worst case. Worst case, you can flip the sled. Your very worst case, most of the time, there's going to be someone coming back down the trail that can help you.
Yep.
So,
And on that, as you say that, when you say to roll it back to the trail, here's a key thing for anybody that really snowmobiles, period. But if you're really a beginner, don't go off the trail downhill from the
big
trail.
mistake, dude. That was me. That was me on a 550.
Well,
this looks nice. Go down.
That's
there.
everybody.
Can't
because
get out.
It's easy to go down, right? It's easier to go down than it is to go up. So it's like, oh, I'll just pop down here. And then you're like, well, how do I get up? So always play uphill of the trail, and then you can always fall or gravity takes you back down.
100%.
So definitely that terrain is a big thing, and ease into the terrain and start with very open terrain. Don't add, you know, structures, trees, rocks, anything like that in until you're very, very comfortable. It's going to save you a lot of money and a lot of frustrations,
100%.
which part of this podcast, limit the frustrations.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're out here to have fun. You don't want to be frustrated the whole time. So just set the expectation and just chill and start where you need to start, not 5 steps above you.
Yep.
So the next one, I don't want to get too much into the specifics of this, but I want to talk about gear real quick.
This might be the most important thing to make sure if you're taking anybody for their first time out, this is probably the most important thing to make sure they have a good time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So gear, what I see a lot of the time, and we'll jump in this into number 4. What I see a lot of the time is guys go out and spend a ton of money on a sled, and then they don't have the budget to spend money on good gear.
Yep.
And in my opinion, snowmobile specific gear is the way to go.
Correct.
I used to wear, I was a big snowboarder a long time ago. I used to wear snowboarding stuff that was good stuff. I would still get soaked. So the snowmobile stuff is more, what's the word? Rigid, maybe? I don't know.
It's just a tougher, like hard shell. It's got a harder shell to it, I'd say. Yeah.
You got a warm machine melting snow and you're, in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So I'd say keep money in the budget, maybe spend less on the snowmobile and more on the gear, or so you can spend more on gear, when it comes to avalanche stuff and stuff like that. So that'd be my recommendation. Dry and warm is a way better day than wet and cold.
Absolutely. I'm going to use this for instance. I always was very fortunate and had very nice gear growing up. Like my parents did very good on that. And that's something I would intend to do to anybody I bring into the sport. Something we've done at Powderbound is that is what we strive to, is we didn't go buy any cheap stuff. Like we have top of the line gear, boots, mono suits, and helmets to make a good experience. But a personal story on that would be like getting my wife into snowmobiling. I knew that if I took her out there and she was cold and wet the first time, she would never want to do it again. Yeah. Now this is my passion, so I wanted her to enjoy it. So I went out and I fully invested and I know it's hard to do that. That's a big commitment, but like I bought her the nicest gear I could, like to where I knew she would have a good time. And that, I think that's something that paid off for me, and why she enjoys snowmobiling is because she never got cold and she's, never been that wet, miserable out there. Like it's just been a good experience for her since day one.
100%. So on the next topic, number 4 is people are on the wrong sled. That I see it all the time. And do not misunderstand what I'm telling you. It's not that they're not on a nice enough sled.
Correct.
That is not what I'm talking about.
You do not need a brand new snowmobile to go have a good time.
Yeah. I'm not talking about, you might have a 20-year-old snowmobile and I'm like, you're on the wrong sled. No. What I'm saying is you're a beginner and you're on something that's too much for you. So like, for example, I see guys that are brand new or they're halfway through a season and they go out and buy a turbo. And I'm like, dude, I in my opinion, it's just a wrong move. Like, it's like you don't have the fundamentals down. You're adding a lot of power. Things are going to come at you quicker and you're just going to build bad habits. That's my opinion. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I think a lot of them say even is like, well, I don't want to, like, when I go to sell it, I don't want to lose my ass on it, right? Like, and that's why I bought the turbo. And it's like, well, no, you're missing the point. Those stock sleds are what fundamentally gets you to the point to where you can get to a turbo. But just like you said, it creates bad habits and bad tendencies to where they rely upon that power and they need to learn the fundamentals.
100%.
I'm going to use me for this example. I got done racing snowcross for 17, 18 years, something like that. Thought I was pretty good on a snowmobile. I was a professional at snowcross. I got in the backcountry and I had a supercharged, sled, and it was like, wow, this thing rides me. Yeah. In that first winter, I rode it for 2 or 3 months and then was like, I can't do this. Like I literally can't do it. I took that supercharger off, and that last month that I rode it, not only did I get better riding a bone stock sled, but I could actually have fun because it wasn't riding me the whole time. Yeah. So it is crucial that you guys get on the right sled, and that's breaking it down. Like, I'm going to break this into Polaris. You probably shouldn't start on a Chaos. You just shouldn't start on that. Same with like a Ski Doo.
Especially if it's boosted.
You shouldn't start on an Expert. It says in the name Expert. You're not an expert. You shouldn't start there. I get it. That's the cool, like that's, I want that, but you're not there yet. It's okay to go buy the cheap sled and be, in the base model and learn the fundamentals and learn how to ride the snowmobile, what it's made to do.
Yep. And I think if you have the money and you get a fancy sled, but I just wouldn't recommend a turbo. I just wouldn't.
Oh, absolutely. If it is your first snowmobile, turbo, absolutely not. Yeah. And I think for a few years, you should not ride a turbo. I just think it creates bad habits. You got to learn those skills and those fundamentals, and then you can start adding power.
Yeah, by habits, he's talking about like learning how to have momentum, learning how to actually ride the sled and use the brake and stuff like that.
Control, having it in control.
Having it in control. With a turbo, a lot of people that are beginning and a lot of people that are experienced, they just rely on the power of the sled to get them out of sticky situations, whether they're getting stuck or whatever. And it can turn into a really bad thing when you have no control over something and it's, 220 horsepower and it's flipping back on you. And, it scares a lot of people.
Definitely. Well, and that's something we teach at Powderbound is like, you might be able to side hill at a high rate of speed because like the momentum holds you on edge. Yeah. But we're going to teach you how to do it like slowly and controlled, like finger on the brake, finger on the throttle. If anybody's rode before, they probably know it's easier to be on edge going fast than it is slow. So we're going to teach you how to do it slow. That way you're in control the whole time. Yeah. And then that's something you can add speed to that, but it's really hard to take speed away from that.
It's like the people who they start side hilling and they're starting to lose it. So there's more throttle, more throttle. And then they're going 40 into a patch of trees. You're like, oh shoot.
Exactly. Yep.
So my last one here, okay, this kind of goes back to a bigger idea, is practicing. At the end of the day, snowmobiling is, in my opinion, a sport. And if you want to get good at it, there's better ways to get good at it than some. And what I mean by that is, say you're a guy, I was this guy, I'll use me for example. First year, I'm actually mountain riding, I'm actually on a mountain sled. I'm getting comfortable in the trees going left, okay?
Yep.
Starting to go left, feeling comfortable. But it would always limit me because I was very timid to side hill right.
Gotcha.
With being in the trees, especially steep.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
It's like naturally most people just can side hill left. Better.
Left is much more comfortable.
So instead of going in the trees and trying to get your right side hill down in the trees where you're breaking bumpers and you're, again, frustrated, practice that stuff where it should be practiced. Yep. Like practice it in the meadow. If there's something that, you just can't get a grasp of, go find a hill, whatever it is, or go find a meadow and work on it over and over and over again until you're comfortable. And you adapt a lot quicker than you think if you practice and actually get reps at it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. No, practicing is what makes it, doable and makes you be able to do it, I guess, at your best. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things that like the 10,000 hour rule, right? Yeah. Like if you want to be the best at anything, you have to put the practice in. But like you said there, you struggled to the right. I had the same struggle. And instead of doing it in the trees, you go to that open terrain, you bring it all the way back to the basics, right?
Yep.
Now I'm going to fundamentally build it back up to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm having to do the same thing at a different level, but like doing a re-entry. I can do a re-entry to the left really, really good. Can I do it to the right? Sure can't. Can't do it.
Yeah.
So I got to fundamentally come all the way back to the beginning of doing stuff on the right and build it up and up and up and up, and then be able to do that re-entry to the right or bow tie.
Yeah. We're looking out this window because there was a car stopped, and I just got a Snapchat. Kason, if you're watching this, I hope that was you.
Well, I saw him drive by and then back up.
Yeah.
So then I was like staring out, like, what's going on? Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, if you guys have any questions, reach out in the comments. If there's common questions, we'll make a video about it. But that's what I would say. A lot of people aren't talking about this because a lot of people are trying to sell you products.
Yep.
And this is the truth about, really learning to snowmobile, no matter what your budget is, to be honest. If you're on a $30,000 sled or if you're on a $500 sled, all of this applies to you. So
absolutely. Yep. Yeah. This is good free information. Like this could help anybody in that situation.
Yep. So
if you did want to spend money though,
come
to Powderbound Adventures and we'll happily teach you.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but yeah, if you guys are struggling, come out for a clinic with AJ, and he'll promise and I'll promise that you will leave a considerably better rider.
Absolutely. So that is our goal. If you walk through these doors, you'll walk out here with skills you'll never forget. That's for sure.
Yep. So again, guys, it means the world to us. If we provide you value, please subscribe.
Yep.
And until next time, let her eat. Snow's coming.
Yes. Have fun, guys, and limit those frustrations. Have fun.
Yeah.
We'll see you on the snow.